The planet is 71% water. Let's sit with that for a second. 71%. That is a lot of water. If you were designing a planet and someone said, make it 71% water, you would say that is probably too much water. Dial it back a little. And yet, here we are, in 2026, being told by the United Nations that we have entered a new era of water bankruptcy. Water bankruptcy. The planet that is mostly water is running a water deficit. The irony is so dense you could filter it. If only we had water to filter things with. This is the Wealth Records. And today we are going to explain how on Earth a planet that is 71% water is running out of the stuff. Not water in general, drinkable water, the specific kind that does not dissolve your organs. If you are new, hit subscribe. Today we do the one where a planet covered in water is running. Out of the useful kind, it sounds impossible. It is documented, and it is significantly funnier than it should be. Drop it below. What country are you in, and have you ever had water restrictions or rationing? Just the country and yes or no. We are mapping this in the comments. Let's start with the numbers, because the numbers are spectacularly bad. Only 3% of all water on Earth is freshwater. 3% of 71%. And of that 3%, approximately 2.5% is locked in glaciers, ice caps, and underground aquifers that we cannot easily access. Which means the fresh water we can actually drink, cook with, shower in, and used to grow food accounts for approximately 0.5% of all the water on the entire surface of this planet. 0.5%. The number you are allowed to use. The rest is either salt water, frozen solid, or extremely inconveniently located underground in ways that make retrieving it expensive and difficult. We live on a water planet with a 0.5% usable water budget. Now let's talk about demand, because the supply problem is the 0.5. The demand problem is that we keep adding people who also want water. The global population in 1950 was 2.5 billion people. In 2026, it is 8.2 billion. More than 3 times as many people. All of them need water and food needs water to grow. The UN says freshwater demand will outstrip supply by 40% by 2030. The planet needing 40% more fresh water than currently accessible, not a minor shortfall. Now let's talk about what we are doing with the water we have. Because what we are doing with the water we have is genuinely impressive in the wrong direction. 70% of all global freshwater withdrawals. Not swimming pools, not golf courses, not the shower you feel guilty about, farming. And here's the part that should make everyone feel something. A significant portion of agricultural irrigation is flood irrigation. Flood irrigation is exactly what it sounds like. You flood a field with water. The crops absorb some of it. The rest evaporates, runs off, or soaks into the ground. Flood irrigation is approximately 40 to 60% efficient, which means between 40 and 60% of the water we flood fields with does not reach the crops it was supposed to hydrate. It is just gone. We are solving a water shortage by wasting roughly half of our irrigation water, using a technology the ancient Egyptians also used, because it is cheap. Agricultural subsidies globally total approximately $700 billion per year, and often make water-intensive farming viable in regions where it is environmentally catastrophic. You are, in a very real sense, paying for the water to be wasted through taxes that fund subsidies, that make flood irrigation of water scarce land profitable, not the virtuous kind of circle. Now let's talk about the Ogallala Aquifer, because the Ogallala Aquifer is the headline. The Ogallala Aquifer sits beneath 8 American states: Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, South Dakota, Wyoming. It supplies water to approximately 30% of all groundwater used for U.S. irrigation. The food grown with Ogallala water feeds a very significant portion of the country. The Ogallala took approximately 10,000 years to fill, glacial meltwater, slowly seeping into porous rock over millennia. We have been drawing it down since the 1950s. In some areas, the water table has dropped by more than 300 feet. At current depletion rates, significant portions of the Ogallala will become economically unusable within a few decades, not centuries. Decades. The recharge rate of the Ogallala is essentially 0 at human timescales. The water in the Ogallala is fossil water, put there by glaciers that no longer exist. No mechanism refills it at any speed that matters. When it is gone, it is gone. It is the most productive agricultural aquifer in human history. We are spending it, like a bonus, and it does not renew. The American agricultural system that depends on it will need to find another water source. There is not an obvious other water source. This is the part the conversation usually skips. Now let's talk about the Colorado River, because the Colorado River story is extraordinary. The Colorado River is allocated in a document called the Colorado River Compact. The compact was signed in 1922. It divided the river's water among 7 U.S. states. The allocation was based on the river's flow in the years around 1922, which, it turns out, were some of the wettest years in the river's recorded history. The 7 states divided more water than the river typically produces. This has been known since the 1960s. The document has not been revised. The math was wrong in 1922. Lake Mead, the reservoir behind the Hoover Dam, hit its lowest recorded level in 2022. It has partially recovered, but remains significantly below historical averages. A river supplying 40 million people has been so thoroughly used it sometimes stops before reaching the ocean. The ocean does not appear to be upset about this. The 40 million people have more complex feelings. Now let's talk about the cities, because the city water crisis is where it gets personal. Cape Town, South Africa, came within days of becoming the first major city in modern history to run out of municipal water. Day zero was when taps would turn off across the city and residents would queue at distribution points with daily ration limits. Cape Town averted day zero through extreme rationing and lucky rainfall. The structural problems were not resolved. Istanbul, a city of 15 million people, had reservoirs at 19.4% capacity in February 2025, triggering 16-hour-a-day water rationing across 14 districts. Istanbul sits at a watershed divide that makes accessing additional water sources difficult. It is the only major city in the world that straddles 2 continents, and it is running low on water while doing so. The geography is uncooperative. Mexico City is sinking into itself because it has been extracting groundwater from under the city for so long that the clay layers have compressed permanently. The compaction is irreversible. The ground under Mexico City has subsided by up to 10 meters. The infrastructure is cracking, and the aquifer has reached a condition hydrologists call irreversible compaction, meaning it can never hold the water volume it once held, even if extraction stopped today. Mexico City, built on a lake, drinking itself into the ground. Now let's talk about Egypt, because Egypt is the scariest case. Egypt gets 97% of its fresh water from the Nile, from one river, no backup. The population was 20 million in 1950. It is 104 million today. It will be 145 million by 2050. More people, same river. Ethiopia is building the grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam upstream on the Nile that reduces the flow reaching Egypt. Ethiopia needs electricity. Egypt needs water. Same river. Egypt has described this as an existential threat. They are accurate. Plan B would require a second Nile. There is not one. Now let's zoom out, because the individual stories are alarming, but the aggregate picture is what puts them in context. More than 50% of the planet's large lakes have lost water since 1990. 70% of major aquifers are in long-term decline. An area of wetlands nearly the size of the European Union has been destroyed over the past 50 years. 50 years was all it took. Wetlands clean water, store water, and release it slowly into rivers and aquifers. Destroying them removes the kidneys from the planet's water system. The UN issued a report in January 2026, officially naming the situation water bankruptcy. Not water stress, not water scarcity. Water. Bankruptcy. The same word we use when a company has spent more than it can repay. Applied to the planet's water supply. In 2026, 1 in 4 people globally lacks access to safely managed drinking water. Globally, half the global population experiences severe water scarcity for at least part of the year. Now let's also talk about the food angle, because the food angle is where water gets personal. You do not drink 70% of the water on Earth. Your food does. Every kilogram of beef requires approximately 15,000 liters of water to produce. A cotton t-shirt requires approximately 2,700 liters more water to make than you drink in 2 years. The food system is the water system. They are not separate topics. When droughts hit the same regions simultaneously, the American Great Plains, the Ganges Basin, the Murray-Darling system in Australia, food prices spike globally, simultaneously, in multiple countries, because the aquifers and rivers feeding those food systems are the same ones under pressure. A drought in Kansas is a food price event in Egypt. When the Ogallala aquifer declines, American food prices go up. When the Colorado River is overallocated, California agriculture faces water cuts. When Indian aquifers are depleted to grow rice for export, buying that rice. Imports Indian groundwater. This is called virtual water. Every food import is a water import in disguise, depleting the exporting country's aquifers one shipment at a time. The global water crisis is also the global food security crisis. The 40% demand-supply gap by 2030 is not just a water shortage. It is a food shortage, a political instability risk, and an economic disruption. Water is upstream of everything, literally and figuratively, every economy, every food system, every human life runs on it. Understanding that is the context for everything. The Climate Summit covers carbon. The Trade Summit covers goods. Nobody has a comprehensive global framework for water. This is, to use the technical term, a significant oversight. Now let's talk about what is being done about it, because something is being done, just not at the scale required or at the speed required. Some of the solutions already exist and work. Singapore recycles water until treated. Wastewater is safe to drink. They call it new water. Singaporeans drink it. No one is dissolved. The city-state of 5 million people has almost no natural fresh water and sits on an island with limited rainfall catchment. It built the infrastructure, made the investment, runs the system. The water is clean. The people are alive. It is not a water-rich country that got lucky. It is a water-poor country that decided to be clever about it. Israel uses drip irrigation across approximately 80% of its agriculture and produces more food per unit of water than almost any country on earth. These are not miracle technologies. They are policy decisions and infrastructure investment. The question is not whether we know how to use water better. We do. The examples exist. It is not fixed because fixing it costs money and requires telling. Powerful agricultural interests that their water allocation is unsustainable. Those interests donate to campaigns. Politicians know this. Now let's close with what this means, because this is the wealth records, and we always do. The water crisis is not primarily a crisis of supply. The water exists. The distribution is the problem. It is a crisis of management, pricing, allocation, and agricultural practice. That treats water as infinite when it is finite. The Ogallala aquifer is being drained to grow crops that could be grown elsewhere with less water. It is the most productive agricultural aquifer in human history. We are spending it like a bonus, and it does not renew. The Colorado River is being divided by a contract written in a wet year. That was never representative. None of these are natural disasters. They are policy and pricing decisions. And policy and pricing decisions can, in theory, be changed. One more thing worth saying. The water crisis does not announce itself dramatically. It arrives as a higher grocery bill, a water restriction notice, a reservoir lower than last year, a well drilled deeper, a city that runs short in a dry summer. The crisis is already here, arriving at different speeds in different places. It's not magic, it's just math nobody walked you through. The math of why the water planet is running out of water, where the water actually went, and what would have to change to fix it. Hit subscribe, The Wealth Records. The pattern is always there if you know where to look. I do.